This is 7 News with Ann Sanders.
Good morning. We'll take you to breaking news out of Melbourne in just a moment. But first to Beirut, where we have confirmation one Australian is dead in a toll soaring towards 80 after an enormous blast rocked the Lebanese capital. Witnesses were filming what started as a warehouse fire with no idea what was about to happen. Shocking pictures are emerging of the blast impact. This priest was conducting a televised mass when the building began to shake. Sarah Greenhalgh has been covering this story. Sarah, do we know about the welfare of other Australians in Beirut?
Well, urgent inquiries are being made to determine if any other Australians are involved. The Prime Minister, Scott Morrison, has confirmed that the Australian Embassy building in Beirut was significantly damaged, that staff received minor injuries, but they have all been accounted for. The trigger for this devastating explosion is now under investigation, but Lebanon's Prime Minister says it involved 2,750 tonnes of ammonium nitrate that had been stored at an unsecured warehouse for several years. He is vowing anyone responsible will pay. The blast happened early evening in downtown Beirut at the city's port. People in Lebanon and Beirut, they've seen it all. They have been through decades of conflict, through civil war, political assassinations, car bombings, but they all say they have never seen, felt or heard anything like this. The damage is so extensive that buildings 10, 12 kilometres away, including the city's airport, have been damaged. Thousands are injured, dozens are dead and hundreds more are believed to be trapped inside buildings. The city's hospitals, which were already at breaking point even before the pandemic, have been overwhelmed. They are turning away victims. At this stage, according to authorities and the government, this was a terrible industrial accident. Even neighbouring Israel was very quick to come out denying that it had any involvement. But the President of the United States, Donald Trump, says according to his intel, it was deliberate.
This was not some kind of a manufacturing explosion type of event. This was seems to be, according to them, they would know better than I would, but they seem to think it was a attack. It was a bomb of some kind. The governor of Beirut broke down in tears during a TV interview, calling it a national catastrophe. He said he has no idea how they will ever recover.
Sarah, thank you. And CNN senior correspondent Ben Wiedemann was there when the blast hit. 7 News spoke to him earlier this morning.
It went off just after 6 p.m. local time, and I was in the CNN bureau. Of course, this is the bureau. It's in shambles now. And it felt initially like an earthquake. And so I went under my desk expecting more tremors, but then I heard the massive crashing of glass in our studio and next door, and basically the entire area. We're just about a kilometer and a half from the port where this blast took place. The national news agency, the official news agency of Lebanon, initially said it was caused by a fire in a warehouse containing fireworks, but shortly afterwards the head of general security said it would be naive to assume that an explosion this vast could have been caused by fireworks. Now, we heard just a little while ago the Lebanese health minister saying that at least 50 people were killed, more than 2,500 wounded. It's not at all clear at this point what caused this explosion, but what is obvious is that it has caused damage, massive damage, throughout the entire city. I've never seen in all my years an explosion so massive as that took place this evening in Beirut.
To our breaking news now, and we're learning this morning that Victoria will hit another record day with virus cases back over 700 as Melbourne prepares for a full shutdown at midnight. Laurel Irving joins me live. Laurel, good morning. It appears to be another day of disastrous numbers there.
Good morning, Anne. The Premier will confirm shortly, but we are hearing it will be 725 new cases, which is a new daily record for Victoria. We are also hearing the number of deaths today will be a record as well. And this is a month after stage 3 restrictions were brought back into Melbourne and 2 weeks after we were all forced to wear masks when we left home. I think most people here would have really expected these numbers to be driven down far more than they have been. But of course, this is why this week we've moved into stage 4 restrictions. As you say, from tonight, all but the most essential businesses and industries across Victoria will be shut down from midnight. At 6 p.m, we expect the doors of the major retailers to close and close for 6 weeks. This will have an extraordinary and catastrophic impact on the state's economy, but also the livelihoods of 250,000 Victorians whose jobs will be affected by this. As well, we'll see a huge presence of troops and police on the streets, making sure that that people are following the rules and staying inside their homes after 8 p.m, with a particular focus on making sure that people who are COVID positive or their close contacts are staying at home. We know that too many of them have been breaking the rules. They will now face a nearly $5,000 fine if they're not at home. And from midnight, Anne, all of those workers who are deemed to be working in essential industries will have to carry with them a government-issued permit signed by their employer saying that they can be out on the streets. Extraordinary times, quite surreal to think that this is Victoria in 2020, a historic week in all the wrong ways.
Yes, you're right about that. Laurel Irving with the very latest from Melbourne. Thank you very much, Laurel. Virgin Australia has announced it will cut around 3,000 jobs and scrap budget airline Tiger Air. Let's go live to Network Finance Editor Gemma Acton. Gemma, the embattled airline is preparing to relaunch under its new owners.
Yes, Anne, it is, with some major changes. Those job losses will amount to around a third of its workforce, and the new look Virgin Australia will fly only one type of aircraft on its main routes. That's the Boeing 737. It plans to offer mid-price and business class tickets only, with no budget offering, and the airline is set to maintain its domestic, short-haul international, regional and charter routes, but there'll be no long-haul flights, at least until global air travel demand returns, which is likely to be years away still. All frequent flyer points are still valid, and any travel credits received prior to the company falling into administration in April will now be valid until June 2023. Anne.
Gemma Acton with the latest on Virgin Airlines. Thank you, Gemma. Let's go to more breaking news now. 12 new COVID-19 cases have been recorded in New South Wales. One is a traveller in hotel quarantine. 10 were locally acquired from known clusters. But crucially, one person was infected in the community from an unknown source. It comes as the strength of the state's border control is questioned as passengers from Melbourne continue to stream through Sydney Airport. Let's go to Samantha Brett in Sydney. Sam, what's the state government saying this morning?
And good morning. Well, there are very real concerns for hundreds of people who are arriving from Victoria to Sydney every single day on flights from Melbourne that they're bringing the virus into New South Wales. 107,000 people have actually flown on one of those flights to Sydney from Melbourne since July 22nd. Many say that they haven't been told the correct protocols, that they've simply been let out of the airport, been told to catch a taxi or an Uber and make their own way into a hotel for self-isolation for 14 days. Now the state opposition wants to see mandatory hotel quarantine for 14 days for anyone who is flying in from Victoria. But the Premier says that the government is doing everything it can to curb the spread.
The processes are rigorous, but in a pandemic, nothing is perfect. And as I've said before, and as other states have experienced, no matter how tough you are, unfortunately, things can happen where people get through across the borders when they shouldn't. If there's further things we need to do, we will. We won't hesitate.
One of those measures could be that everyone on those flights from Melbourne to Sydney will have to wear masks, that will become mandatory. Now, that is something that the government will discuss later today.
Thanks, Sam. Queensland has recorded one new case of COVID-19 as the Premier slammed the border shut to all residents from New South Wales and the ACT. Let's go to Bianca Stone in Brisbane. Bianca, the Premier has further tightened border restrictions.
The Premier made this shock announcement this morning, declaring she was slamming the border shut to all of New South Wales and the ACT. So from 1 a.m. on Saturday morning, the border will be closed to Victoria, New South Wales and the ACT. The Premier says she's doing it to protect Queenslanders, and only rare exemptions will be given for people to cross the border.
This is the right thing to do. I know it's going to be tough on Queenslanders, but your health comes first.
We can expect a rush of people trying to get back across into Queensland before this new border closure takes effect. Many have questioned why the ACT has been included in this new closure, but authorities say people from Sydney hotspots have been travelling to Canberra to fly into Queensland.
We're currently investigating a male person who we will allege, when they appear in court, has deliberately driven from Sydney out of a hotspot into the ACT to get a flight to come to Brisbane and then connected into Cairns.
Just one new case has been recorded here in Queensland in the past 24 hours. That is a 68-year-old woman from the Ipswich area. Investigations are ongoing into how she contracted coronavirus. The 3 men, meanwhile, who police say snuck across the border after travelling around Victoria for several weeks, have been tested. Those test results have come back as negative. They will be retested. Anyone in this Logan area who has experienced symptoms of coronavirus is encouraged to get tested.
The Prime Minister has given Melbourne childcare centres a lifeline to help parents through the city's shutdown. Live to Olivia Leeming in Canberra. Olivia, good morning. Parents won't have to pay fees.
No, at least not during the 6-week lockdown period. The federal government spending $33 million to keep all childcare centres open across Melbourne and ensure that no childcare worker loses their job. Parents who are frontline workers will be guaranteed a free spot, and those who can keep their children at home won't lose their place or have to pay any gap fee.
For parents, for the services themselves, as well as for the employees.
Scott Morrison also focusing on strengthening our regional ties this morning, holding a virtual meeting with PNG's Prime Minister after addressing a US security forum where he urged both China and the US to peacefully resolve their disputes to enhance global stability, though targeting China with his pledge to tackle foreign interference, ramping up the nation's cyber defences, with Cabinet today set to approve a new cyber security strategy to protect all sectors from banking to energy from future cyber attacks. Anne?
Olivia Leeming in Canberra. Thank you, Olivia. There's been a dramatic rescue off the coast south of Sydney. Nina Stevens joins us. Nina, 3 crew had to be winched from the water.
Well, that's right, Anne. The fishermen ran into trouble around 7:30 this morning with their commercial boat sinking about 30 kilometres off Shell Harbour. You can see here just what unfolded. One of the fishermen is inside an inflatable when a rescuer comes down from a helicopter to save him. The rescuer then takes him out, attaches the fisherman to him, and you can see the choppy seas and windy conditions there. Both are then pulled up, the rescuer with his legs wrapped around the man, and then they're hoisted up into the chopper. Now, these 3 fishermen have been taken to hospital for treatment, and by the looks of it, they seem to be doing okay, but no doubt, Anne, it was a cold and frightening experience for them.
Yes, very lucky men. Nina Stevens, thank you.